Hello everyone and welcome to Cappuccino with HR. My name is Rudi Bauer, and after 40 years in business, I'm 100% sure that the success of companies is directly related to the passion of the people working for these companies. With the Cappuccino of HR, we created a format where we really invite people. It's HR leaders, it's recruiters, it's talent acquisition guys, and we're talking about all the different kind of topics, and the range is going from AI, of course, to new work, to leadership, and all the challenges along the way. Yeah, hello and welcome to a new episode of Cappuccino with HR. And today I'm really proud and thrilled that I've got a guy which I really I know that he's international. I know he's a lot on stage, and I'm really proud that he took the time to be my guest today. Uh, his name is Balazs Paroczay. I hope I spelled it right. I had a really nice discussion as he's Hungarian name, and I'm in Austria and Hungary. I think we were tied very close to each other for many, many years. So the Austrian should be able to pronounce the name probably right. Yeah. So, Balazs, welcome at a Cappuccino with HR.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here, and I always feel extremely embarrassed when when people introduce me like that. Like, ooh, I just feel like no, I'm it's just me. I'm just an expert. That's all. But really look forward to a
Yeah.
great conversation.
And I mean the first question, which I normally always ask because it's called Cappuccino with HR. What's your favorite coffee?
So that's you see, that's a great question. So because I was born in Hungary, right? And I left Hungary some time ago, and I moved to Firenze, to Italy, to Florence. And certainly that is my way of coffee right now. The thing is this, when you live in Italy, you understand that you don't drink coffee with milk after 12 o'clock. Now, eh, prior to that, I had all sorts of latte at 3 p.m., 5, whatever. But when you live in Italy, you understand that this just doesn't make any sense, like you just don't do that. So after lunch, when you finish with lunch, you just have an espresso, maybe a ristretto, and no milk. And from that moment you don't drink. Now, since then I moved to Paris, and I cry back to the Italian coffee. I can tell you, I think the
Yeah.
French coffee is more like the American coffee. But let's stop it here because I don't want the French listeners to hate me too much. But yeah, my way of coffee is the Italian one, right?
Okay, cool. I think that's a good start. And today we are talking about. I think we are talking about recruiting, tech recruiting. So I mean, I think it's this double, just exchanging these two verbs in tech recruiting and recruiting tech. I think it's a really cool topic. And but I want to ask you to probably briefly introduce yourself, to tell probably in a few sentences about yourself, what you're doing. I mean, what's your current position, what's on
Okay.
your agenda.
Okay. So I joined the recruiting arena as a great gladiator. So I joined in 2004. That's more than 20 years ago, which feels really awkward, to be honest. But hey, here we are. For the last 21 years, I've been dealing with sourcing. Now, I had a corporate background, so I was going through the career ladder. I had the amazing opportunity in my life to build large scale sourcing teams. So I was working with multiple RPO, recruitment process outsourcing companies, and I was leading teams and building teams, and that was really, really amazing. And my last corporate position was a global sourcing vice president, but that was a real global scope. So I that was a time when I had the privilege to really learn about how to do sourcing, like everywhere, right? Like, what's the difference between Canada and Manila, right? Not in terms of the locations, but in terms of the sourcing and the recruiting in these things, and that was extremely, extremely exciting. And by the end of 2019, that time I was this global sourcing guy, and I decided to open my company. And since then, I'm running my own company, which is a sourcing. It's a management consultancy, if you wish. It's like a boutique consultancy. We help companies build and evolve their sourcing capabilities. So we train companies for sure, but also we work on a lot of like strategic consultancy projects, like process re-engineering, all sorts of things, like how to build it, within a corporation. And part of it is technology, right? Because recruitment tech is certainly something that we have to face that it's there, and we have to find a way to do it the best way. So that's what we do, for the last 5 years. And it's just a small company, right? So it's just a few people, but we have amazing clients all over the world. So yeah, it's quite exciting.
If you have to describe it, or if you probably have to summarize it, is there, from your point of view, is there a gap in today's HR tech stacks?
Oh, a gap. Well, it's like an Emmentaler, the cheese. It's like sometimes you feel that there's some cheese around the holes, right? I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and where does it come from? Is it because people are not interested, or is it more because they don't know where to start? What do you think is the main reason that it looks like an Emmentaler?
It's a really, really interesting question. So there are quite a few things that we need to see. One is that the world is constantly changing, right? So because the world is changing, technology is changing, right? And not just recruiting technology. Recruiting tech is usually the second or third step. Take AI, and take where we are today, right? There's a big development of AI and big development of the LLM and the ChatGPTs and whatsoever, and after that it just goes down to recruitment tech, and recruitment tech companies understand how they can employ AI within their universe, right? So it always goes a bit later to HR tech or recruitment tech, but the world is changing. So we have to catch up with all of these things. Second, people are changing, right? So there's always a new expectation coming up, from the candidate side, from the people side, right? In the past, it was totally okay to ask people to fill out a application form, which may take 35 minutes, but that time it was okay. Now, today, people will not spend 35 minutes just with one application form. Why not? Because first of all, we don't have time. Second, because when we apply to a job, well, we apply to 200 jobs and not just one job, right? And no one's got time to fill out, what? No, you want to do it, with one click. You just want to give your first name, last name, email, maybe phone, maybe you attach a CV and move on. And the rest should be done by the technology. And there's a third one, right? And that's the tragedy is that there is the existing recruit tech, and usually companies have contracted with really old school ATS providers, right? So many of those ATS providers are still quite old school. They still they were developed like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and they don't really catch up with the market, right? And because of that, we have this challenge in recruitment tech, that we have these old systems, these big brand ATS providers, that no one likes to use them. No one believes that that's the right way to do tech, but it's just impossible to to trash them out and to implement something new tech. This is just not the way how it works, right? So if I'm a global company and we use let's say Workday, it's almost impossible to replace Workday globally in every country with every. These are just so huge projects that often what we see is that companies just don't have the budget, the time, the effort, the interest, to run all of these change processes, and they just they're just stuck in their current state. And that's the last point, maybe. And really, you can stop me anytime if I talk too much, okay?
No, it's fine.
But the last thing is that recruiters or recruiting leaders often they don't follow the offering of the market. They just don't know what's out there, right? Often, they work with a piece of technology, let's say Workday, and they don't know what they could technically integrate with Workday already. They just don't know. They don't know what they don't know, right? That's the problem. That's the lowest level of not understanding the story, because they don't know what they don't know, right? They don't see what they don't see. It's not, it's just that there is an attitude, what I see on the market, there's an attitude, unfortunately, is that talent acquisition people usually are really reluctant to go after these technologies and to learn about these technologies and to go for demos with various players. It's like they're not really up to date. And these four factors create a really challenging time.
I probably want to add a fifth one, which is I experienced quite in the last 10 to 15 years since I'm in this business and in this niche. I sometimes have got the impression that they are looking for a straw which is somewhere out. I mean, it could be AI, it could be anything else. So it's like a straw which you take if you're underwater. And you really believe that this can solve all your problems without exactly knowing what the problem is.
Right, so and that's a really good point. No, because we always say that you don't buy a coat to a button, right? Like it's just the other way around, right? So often what we see is that if they hear about a new technology, usually people get super excited, which is lovely, but they don't think about all of the consequences that they will face if they decide to implement a brand new technology, right? We spend a significant amount of time when we talk to our clients explaining that the number one challenge that you will face is data integration. That's the number one challenge. And then because you don't want to administrate things in two systems, right? Or three systems, or whatever systems. Challenge number two is that you have to understand how your process will be duplicated potentially in various systems, right? Because usually recruitment technology usually does more than just one thing, right? It's not just one thing. Every technology provider, the big ones and the mid-sized ones, they try to constantly evolve their offering. They try to constantly grow their feature case. They say, oh, well, we are a video interview company. We provide video interviewing, but we also do assessment. Oh, and by the way, you can also email candidates. Oh, and by the way, you can also track all of these things. Oh, and and they do all of it understandably. But when I'm a talent acquisition leader and I think about my process, I have to understand that, okay, I'm going to track and use the technology here for this step, but for this step I'm going to use this one. Between these two steps I need a communication, so I need integration between the systems. Oh, for that process steps actually I could use two technologies because I have both of them, so I have to decide which one. Oh, it's really complex. And to be honest, well, don't often, not often do you meet a leader who is aware of the complexity of, of these challenges, like who really understand, all of these things, why it can be really, really difficult, just to implement something, from the market.
How important from your point of view is the human as a human being in the whole process? Because at the end of the day, I think we are not doing it because we all love technology so much. Yeah? Because anyhow,
what do you mean by human? Like which human? Is like the recruiter human or the
I'm probably the recruiter human, but I mean, even the recruiter humans are not here to do it for themselves. I mean, at the end
Yeah,
of the day, I think we are talking about candidate experience. I mean, we're talking
right.
about how do we treat people.
You know, I used to work for a company, and within that company, I loved their approach because not only did they talk about candidate experience, but they also talked about recruiter experience and hiring manager
Hmm.
experience and
Hmm.
HR
Hmm.
experience, right?
Hmm.
I mean, we tend to think that, oh, it's only the candidate experience which matters. That
Hmm.
matters a lot, big times. But honestly, also the recruiter experience matters
Yeah, of course.
because you don't want to lose your recruiters, right? You don't want to burn them out. You don't want to listen, hear their constant complaints about, your technology, and you just don't want that. But
Hmm.
still, with too little time, we focus on on these things, like to really understand that from a recruiter perspective, is it the
Hmm.
right experience? Does this process make sense? Do I really help them, or I
Hmm.
just implemented the technology that I need because of reporting,
Hmm.
but it won't help their daily
Yeah.
life, right? So it actually just brings in another challenge to their to their workload. And yeah.
But I mean, doesn't that mean that you sometimes, as a company, if something appears on the market as a new technology, let's take AI now, yeah, because everybody's talking. I mean, everybody. I think some of the people are really thinking that AI can solve all the problems. I mean, I think it definitely can support us in solving some problems, but I'm not 100% sure that it can solve all the problems. But doesn't that mean that companies should, before they start thinking about implementing something, do two steps back and getting a kind of a clear picture what is needed to support candidate experience, recruiter experience, hiring manager experience, profitability, because that's always important for companies as well. Yeah. So how do you normally, if you support organizations with your company in setting that up, how do you normally start? What's your starting
Right.
point?
Yeah. Can I share my screen? Can I show you something, really?
I think it
Is
should.
that
I think it should work. Yeah, I've never tried. Yeah, but you can do it. You can try it. Yeah, of
I
course.
think I can
I
share.
mean, we lose it. We lose it then in the audio podcast because we have
Right.
it's also it's on Spotify. So probably you can explain it in a way,
I
because
will
otherwise it's a
try
little
to.
bit. Yeah, yeah,
Right. Okay. So what you see here is that this is basically a really detailed process flow about,
yeah.
about a fantasy recruitment process.
Hmm.
So as you can see, it starts with approval management, when you have to approve the new vacancy, and we go through sourcing and assessment and selection, interviewing, offer, onboarding, whatsoever, right? And what you see is that the
Hmm.
Spotify listeners, what they don't see is that
Yeah.
as we go through
It,
this process flow, right, it we constantly map which step is already supported by an existing piece of technology.
mhm,
Because you need to understand, right? You must know is that, I don't know, for instance, offer letter. Okay. Do we do that via email? Do we do that via the HRIS system? Do we do that via the ATS? Or, I don't know,
mhm,
like
yeah.
what is the way how we do that? Because the
Mhm,
moment when we are going to implement a new technology will also cover, the new technology will cover new boxes, but
mhm,
also the new technology will cover boxes that already have been covered by any other
mhm,
technology. And that's
mhm,
I go back to you. That's the very first step, right?
mhm,
And it sounds easy, but in real life, it's not that easy because we had a client last year. The client was like, okay, fine. I want to bring in all of these new features. I want to have a video interview tool. I want to have like a gamified assessment. I want all of that.
yeah.
And we were like, excellent. That's the type of clients we like, because they want to spend so much on the market. That's beautiful, and they are really innovative. But when we went through their process, and when we started to map out every step of the recruitment flow, right,
Mm,
then we understood that actually their existing ATS can also do quite a few of these things that they wanted to achieve. So we went back
mhm,
to them saying like, hey, listen, I mean, you didn't know that, which is fine. That's why we are telling you. But do you really want to bring in a new technology? Because 75% of your dream or wish list build can be covered by your existing technology. Now, you bring in something new, you will face a massive workflow of integration. That's a lot of money, resources, whatsoever, And by the way, you will have duplicated process flows in your system. So is that missing 25%? Is that really so important that you rather go through this investment and change process and whatever? Or you know what? At this stage, you rather say, you know what? If I can cover 75% of my big dream, that's good for now.
But I think that's the serious and honest approach you should normally, as a company, address this thing. Yeah? That is what I meant with my initial question. Are they already aware of the problem so that they can describe or even think about the solution? Yeah?
Because often, like we hear about these products, right? So, you go to a conference and everyone, if you go to a conference today, everyone will talk about AI. And if you don't have anything run by AI, you will feel so stupid. You will feel so little. You will feel like you have a FOMO, like, oh my God, what have I missed? Because all of these people talk about AI. I also have to have AI. Oh. And then you understand that actually no one really has AI. Come on, people, let's be honest. It's just a handful of companies that are so advanced that they really started to, apply AI. But it's just that, you have to balance what you hear on the market, what you see on LinkedIn, what everyone talks about. You must know that, when we all talk about a certain topic, that's a trend. But the trend doesn't mean that we all have it. There was this meme quite some time ago, I guess 10 years ago, when we said that, like big data is like teenager sex. We always talk about it. Everyone talks about it, but no one is doing that. And I think it's pretty accurate, right? AI is like teenage sex. They all talk about it and no one is doing that. And so you have that on the market. You have to listen. You have to understand. You have to be aware of all of these things. But you have to understand your pain, and you have to understand the biggest pain in your company. What is your biggest recruitment pain? What do you really want to solve? And you have to match these two things together.
And I mean, you were talking about the big corporates that have the problem that they have big systems and they have rolled out them globally. That it's very difficult to steer this big tanker in a different direction. But I want to ask you the opposite now. What should smaller teams do? I mean, if you're a really small organization, if you're probably one guy in this HR department or two, and you've got an assistant, and you need also to tackle these things, where should they start? What's your advice there?
So, right, that's a really good point. The good news is that many of the technology providers, many of them offer packages or solutions for like SMEs, like or micro companies, like small companies, right? So if you think about smart recruiters, right? Smart recruiters can build a system, for a global, like a big one, but also they have a like a small and medium enterprise solution, right? Which is really like from a cost perspective quite inexpensive, and they actually provide you with most of the features that you will need. What runs me crazy is when a company is small enough but also lazy enough, and they rather do everything in Excel, and then they complain every night. Now I think that's not now. The word is over this thing. I mean, if you see yourself still tracking everything in Excel and you don't use anything else than Excel and Outlook, then there's a problem. Then we've got a problem. Houston, we've got a problem. So then you really have to think about what you can implement. Because the good thing with recruitment is that there are other tools sometimes that we can also use for recruitment purposes. They are not recruitment tools like a HubSpot. It's a CRM. But we can find a way to use that. We have a client that was tracking candidates in Excel, and you have to imagine massive Excels, like Excels with thousands of rows and millions of columns, right? Because you want to track every, like, you know,
Of course. Yeah.
and of course, and and for that client, like at that stage, we suggested to implement Monday.com. Now, Monday.com is a project management tool, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's not a
Mm-hmm.
recruitment tool, it's not a CRM, not so whatsoever. But it was a logical next step for them to implement Monday.com because that was a really tiny investment, right? It's quite cheap. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it helps. It does almost the same as an Excel,
Mm-hmm.
but because this is a structure, because it's a software, it's better built, it's more complex than an Excel. It
Mm-hmm.
also provides you actually a much better user experience. Although the reporting is super cool
Mm-hmm.
because there are
Yeah.
built-in reporting features and you can track everything, right? You can
Yeah.
even communicate via your team. It's
Mm-hmm.
a Monday.com comparing to an Excel is an improvement, is a step. It's not a CRM, right? So we are not
Mm-hmm.
there. But in terms of like making our life easier, that was just a logical next step. And then, after that one, they can go further.
If I summarize it, I mean, your advice is evolution instead of revolution, right?
Yeah, that's what my colleagues are always saying.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you have to destroy everything and start from scratch, right? I mean, sometimes you have something where you feel like, honestly, we can try to integrate 6 other tools just to build a whole stack, but why don't we just say goodbye to this one? Like just trash out this tool, just buy something which knows more. So sometimes you have to be brutal, but yeah, but I think you raise a really good point because even when you are brutal, you must have an evolution. You must understand that technology is evolving, and as your needs are evolving, that's how you will have more and more technology. Like I feel a bit ashamed, but my company, we just started to use like Zapier type of automation tools. I feel ashamed because I'm supposed to be like super innovative and whatever, and I felt like, why now? But anyway, at least now we started to automate a lot of our processes, because I understood that, wait a second, like why do we do that ourselves? Like, doesn't make any sense, like you can really automate all of these things. So yeah, it's evolving. Yeah.
Do you still have Excel spreadsheets on your server?
So we To be honest, not no, because we
Yeah.
actually also almost killed emails because
Mm.
for instance, in my company we use Monday.com, right?
Yeah.
We have a CRM and we use
Yeah.
Monday.com and we use Google.
Yeah.
So our process is that if we communicate regarding a project or a client, that should if it's an existing client, that should go to Monday. If it's a new client, it should
Yeah.
go to CRM. So we
Yeah.
really try to eliminate the other communication via chat,
Mm-hmm.
via email, because that's
Mm-hmm.
non-trackable. It's
Mm-hmm.
important. Like email is the
Yeah.
worst place to track
Yeah.
because
Definitely.
you
Definitely.
don't oversee. You can see 5 emails and then you just feel you have this overwhelming feeling that if you have like 15, 20, 25, 58 and whatever emails, you feel
Mm-hmm.
like, at least I feel really concerned. I feel like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
just too many. So we said, you know what? Let's do this. If something is urgent, then you reach out on chat, fine, because it's urgent. It has to happen now. Okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
why. Okay, fine. But other than that, you use Monday or use a CRM, and that's where we communicate because it's
Mm-hmm.
all trackable, right? So yeah, that's what we do.
I mean, it's impressive how fast the time is passing by. We are already very
Yeah.
close to the end of our session, but I have a final question because I think it's important also. I mean, normally, if you're implementing this kind of tech stack in an organization, it's not a decision which is taken by one person. And if it's
Mm.
taken by one person, what you definitely need to keep it alive or make it alive is the buy-in from the rest of the
Yeah.
organization. What's your advice on
Yeah.
getting this kind of buy-in?
Yeah. Okay. So what is super, super is a really good point, really. So we always say that you have to think about selecting a tool, implementing a tool, and maintaining a tool. And you must think about all of these because usually people get excited about selecting a new tool. Oh, you know what? If they'll do this and this and that, and it's like, wow, you know. When it comes to implementation, they say, oh, do we have an implementation team? Okay, fine, we give it to them. You have to be there. You have to be alive. You have to, you know, like stay on the top of all of that because it will be your team who will have to start using that tool every day. You have to be the cheerleader. You have to constantly, you know, like motivate them via all of the training. You must understand the challenges that the users feedback you. That's still your job, implementation, right? It's not just that we give it to IT and, you know, they will do their shit. And then the last one, the maintenance, is that, and that's the most annoying and the most boring part, but you have to make sure that the tool is in use. And that often means that you have to log in, go there, check. Is that field filled with data? Do they use the right workflow, the right, you know, do you have access to the right reporting? Did you check the report? Maintenance. You know, you must understand if the tool is in use or not. Because what we see too often is that leaders and even like executives, right? Like big leaders, they get excited about the tool because they know what the tool can accomplish, cost saving, whatever. They implement it. Now during the implementation, we don't really take lead on that training, you know, we just leave out. So that's typical problem number one. And then usually no one's following up on the team how they use the tool and whether they are happy or not happy or whether they need extra training or whether they have still doubts, right? It's a whole change process. And usually we just tend to forget about it. So yeah, I guess that's it. So so if you decide to bring in a new tag, it's not just selecting a new tag. It's just like it's like having a cat in your life, like a dog, you know. It will stay with you, right? You have to feed it. You have to clean it. You know, it's work.
It needs care. It needs
It needs care. It needs
it
you,
needs care.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. And the final and last question that I want also to ask you is, what do you think is at the moment, if it comes to tech and tech tools and things and trends going on, what would you say is the hottest shit at the moment out there?
Well, you know, like AI, right? No, but okay. So, okay. So if I think about recruitment, right? Um, I think what is an interesting debate whether AI will kill sourcing, will be able to find people. That's a huge debate on the planet. There are pros and cons, and you know everyone seems to be an expert in this topic. Now, I'm not an expert at all in this topic, right? But I'm testing all of these solutions, right? So I'm testing the people GPTs and the and the alike. And to be honest, you know, like I think search is just yet way too complex. I'm not saying that we won't ever be able to overcome this complexity. I'm just saying that the way how the human brain can work, like when it comes to like a good one, right? So like a really sophisticated brain, right? Because ChatGPT can build you a really simple Boolean string. It can say engineer developer. Fine, this is good. It's a good start. But this is not what I call like a real human brain. Now, I think that one is not yet there, to be honest, if you ask me. What is there is the whole automation of engagement. That's beautifully out there. Like the way how I can send you a personalized email without any effort, and then you may reply, you may not. If you don't reply, I send you a follow-up. Even if you reply, AI can understand what you replied and can make decisions based on your reply. It's just to move you on, with scheduling, or AI may alert me that you have a question, right? That is all possible, and it's already possible, and we see these things working already with some of our clients. That's fascinating. Like if I think about, I just had a meeting yesterday when we went through the offer and the onboarding process. Now, it's a bit administrative part of that story, right? Because when you offer a candidate, you have to ask for loads of data, and in certain countries, think about Austria, right? We have all sort of things that we need to gather, the the diploma, all of these, right? Now, usually we do it by humans. We have someone, an administrator, coordinator, who is calling you, "Hey, Rudy, can you send me the copy of your passport, the copy of a copy?" And then you send all of that. You just forget one, so she has to come back to you, say, "I'm sorry, sir, it's me again. I'm sorry for horrible." Now, these all can be run by AI now. Okay, are we yet there? Like, can these companies just like buy AI and of course not. Why not? Because there are three major topics, I think, that usually the blockers. One is integration. Is like, do we trust? Because these technologies are really new, right? Do we trust them? Do I really want to connect my workday, with this tool? Because this tool probably is a company of 10 people, right? Lovely, but do I really want to give access to my, to my company? Like, are we on the same level, right? What happens if they go bankrupt or whatever? Like leaking data, like that's like a global corporation, may not want to do that. There's also a localization issue, like in Europe, right? Austria, Hungary, Germany, France. I mean, we have all our legislation, and we prefer some local stuff, and and that's still missing. And then there's the whole data privacy, right? Which is the GDPR and the like. I mean, that's a serious topic, right? So when you talk to a US AI provider, right, really cute, cute company, that's extremely lovely companies, like 10 youngsters, age 20, average age 22, and they come to and say, we can connect to you and we can do us. And so say, fine, where is your server? Oh, why does it matter? Because if your server is not in Europe, then we cannot use it from a data privacy perspective. Hello, good morning, So yeah.
Yeah.
I talk too much, right?
No. It's so amazing. I think we could continue for another 1.5 hours. But I hope, we have our tech leaders summit in Berlin in July.
Yep.
And we have got 3 stages there, and it would be a pleasure for me to have you
It
there
would be
as well.
really nice. It would be really nice.
Because the audience, I think, would love to listen to you and your expertise and your thoughts about AI. Because honestly, I totally share what you said. I think it's. I see what I see is the relation between humans and AI could easily be the assistant of the humans to free us up for really do why we went into HR. We wanted to deal with people. We wanted to talk to people. We want to communicate with people. That was the main reason why most of us joined HR.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we ended up in filling out Excel spreadsheets.
Correct. Or yes.
And probably AI could free us up, getting more time again to spend it with humans. That's the main reason why I, for example, love to work, because I join teams, I join people, I share my knowledge and my experience and my ideas with the thoughts and ideas of others. And I think, honestly, that was why I moved into it.
Yesterday, we had a client meeting physically, like we met with a client and, stakeholders, and, exactly what you just said. We do all of these things digitally, but it is great sometimes just to be there in the room, laugh together and so. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think it probably frees us up a little bit that we get more time for this again. Balazs, it was a real pleasure for talking with you. Thank you for taking your time, and thank you for being with us. For the audience out there, if you were not able, if you're just listening it first on Spotify or Apple Podcast, you can also find the video and the nice slides that Balazs shared with us on either our webpage or on LinkedIn. So we are sharing the content there as well. So Balazs, I really hope to see you in Berlin. So we are taking up on that together with you. And for the audience out there, please stay tuned. We are coming back with new episodes on a really regular basis. So please stay tuned, and thank you very much for listening. And thank you very much, Balazs, once again for joining us.
Thanks for inviting. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for watching Cappuccino with HR. If you enjoy this kind of conversations, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Then you get all this kind of upfront information, your upcoming episodes, and all my nice guests. Cappuccino with HR is brought to you by WeAreDevelopers, Europe's #1 developer community and a leading platform for connecting HR and companies together with developers. If you want to learn more, visit us on WeAreDevelopers.com. Thank you again for watching and see you next time on Cappuccino with HR.